What's going on, guys? Welcome to Cruising with Kevin. Today I'm going to show you something a little different. I do this once in a while, but I don't typically show it on the channel, and I know there's some do-it-yourselfers that would like to kind of know some basic things. So I'll show you what that's all about and what we're going to do here today. So let's get to it. All right, guys, so I'm cleaning up my shop today. I was working on this John Deere 2305. I just wanted to show you some very simple, basic things about these. If you're looking at buying one or how to service it, basically some once-overs of kind of what I'm gonna do here today to service it. So I'll show you everything kind of that I know about them, and kind of you guys can sort of figure out the rest yourself or ask questions if you need anything. Okay guys, so like I said, this is I believe it's a 2010 John Deere 2305. So what I'm basically going to do today is change the hydrostatic fluid and change the oil in it. They're very simple machines. All these John Deeres are very, very straightforward. They're very similar. So if you were to have like a John Deere 2210, a John Deere 2305, 1023E, 1025R, they're very, very similar. Even like the 2 series, like 2320s, things like that. Worked on tons of these over the years. This is kind of the average condition for one of this age. Like I said, I think it's around a 2010. So kind of give you an idea. One thing that people overlook all the time is the hydraulic fluid. People hardly ever change the filters and the oil on that. So I'm planning on doing that today. I'll show you kind of how everything comes apart here. Very simple, nothing to it. So let's get to it, dig into that right now. Okay, so some simple things here. Right here, this is kind of seized up a little bit on this one, but you push that out and then this grill tilts forward. That gives you access to the front battery or any of these covers. So this entire cover will pull forward and out. They're a little bit easier on the 10 series, like 1025s and 1023s. They just basically slide forward. This one's got the whole grill attached to it, which I don't like as much, but yeah. So you got your air filter here, super easy to take that thing out, change it, clean it, whatever. The battery is right there, the overflow reservoir. The one thing that gets overlooked, and you can kind of see it's happened with this one, there's a screen in here, if I can get it out of here. So you see that? There's that screen. Kubotas have it as well in a different location. But so on this particular machine, if you're mowing lots with it or anything like that where it's kind of dusty, that thing sometimes will plug up a couple times a day, and that'll cause it to overheat if you don't stay on top of it. So that's what that's about. I'll clean that as I'm servicing it here. So this is a 4-wheel drive machine. I can kind of show you basically a basic once over of what this is. It's a hydrostatic range machine. So there's 2 ranges here. Basically this is neutral, which if all your safeties are working, it has to be in neutral to start it. This is low range, high range, and then there is the foot pedals for the forward and reverse. Very simple. This is your PTOs. On this side, you can see your PTO selector. So that is basically your mid PTO, your rear PTO, or both at the same time. And a lot of people ask why you would want to run them both. So that would be if you had something like a bagger on the back. So this 2305, they don't come from the factory ready to run these 260 backhoes. Again, people get confused because they think it's a 3-point hitch setup, and it is not. So if you look at this, the 3-point arms are up there. Basically the links for the backhoe are down there. They don't come with that from the factory. And so the hydraulic kit that's attached to this, I think what they call it here is like a beyond power kit. So that's basically your hydraulics to run the backhoe. So something to think about. You can't just buy a 260 backhoe and throw it onto the regular, just 2305 or whatever. That would cost you like 10 grand. So just something to think about there. So the other thing here, this one's got wheel weights on it, you can see, which is kind of unusual, but there's some more basic functions here. if you push this down and you pull up on here, those are kind of common to break, but that's the parking brake. You have to push it again, let it down. All your lights and everything are up here. Like I said, that's pretty basic. So this is the hydrostatic fill, which we'll be using that a bit later. And if you look back here, this there is a sight glass here, and you can hardly see the oil in it. It's just barely touching, but that's basically your level. So that's how you know where the level is on it. So yeah, so that's basically all of your hydraulics, and it's all basically tied into your rear end there. This is a kind of, people don't know this most of the time. This controls the speed of your 3-point hitch up and down. So if you had something heavy on there and you don't want it to go slamming to the ground, that's basically what that's for. This is to adjust your mower height, which this one actually has a mower. A lot of them don't. And it's to actually install it too. You can see right here, you have to set it to install height there. So there's that. So let's crawl underneath this thing. I'll kind of show you where everything else is on it. So right back here, you can see on this one, it's hard to see here, sorry. Right back here, that's your hydrostatic filter. Super easy to get at. Right there is the mid PTO shaft. So that's basically for running your mower, snowblower, whatever other attachment you put on the mid PTO there. Your front 4-wheel drive shaft there. If you ever have to change anything in there, it kind of sucks, but I mean, it's just part of owning a tractor or whatever. So like I said, so the common things that you see on these that are problems would be like this steering leaking, which again, it's not that big of a deal really. These things are pretty easy to work on. If you need to change it, that kind of stuff, it's not that big of a deal. Kubotas have more of this problem than the John Deere's, but a lot of times these steering knuckles will leak. And part of that is with elevation changes and things like that, there's basically a seal in there and it'll pressurize up. Now, I've been told, and I never have seen this personally, but I've been told that they have a vent built in. So this is the fill. So these actually thread out on these. On the Kubotas, they pull out and there's basically an O-ring on them. So you thread that out. You can see it says 90 weight oil. I always run John Deere oil, John Deere filters. I'm pretty adamant about that unless I was in a bind and just needed one for some reason in a pinch, but really for the most part, that's what I stick with. This is a quick attach loader on this thing. So John Deere, you can see this is their style of quick attach. It's actually a really nice setup, like how it works. It's almost better than Bobcat style, but the attachments are pretty expensive. So there's actually some companies, I don't know if John Deere themselves makes one. I actually just had one not too long ago that I sold, but they make an adapter that will basically go to like to go from like a John Deere type to Bobcat style. So basically universal. Right here, this little rod, it moves up and down. So if this bucket was level and this was set properly, this bend would be right at this notch here. So that's where you'd know your level. So you adjust it to that. And then when that elbow is hitting where this bend is right here, when that's hitting this link, that's how you know when your bucket's level. Somebody's obviously welded a hook on here, which is kind of nice actually. But yeah, that's kind of the basic thing about it. They are a quick attach loader. I've had them on and off a couple of times ever since we've been, working with these things. I don't care to take them off. It's not the greatest setup. They aren't the worst, but they're definitely not the best. So Kubota has, I think, a better quick attach system for taking off the loaders. I'm not going to show you that today. You guys can check into that yourself if you need it. This is your throttle here. And yeah, that's about it. You basically turn the key on. They have like a grid heater on these. I don't believe they have glow plugs on this generation. And yeah, it just cycles the glow plugs basically, or well, not glow plugs, it's grid heater. And that's it. And if it's cold or whatever, it just does that on its own. You might have to do it a couple times if it's real cold. And yeah, like I said, not much to it. So that's what this deal is. There is the oil filter here too, which we're gonna have to get to. You can see right here, that's your oil filter. I did check and I have a couple still kind of in my inventory here. So once I use one, I'm gonna have to order some more here. I haven't done one of these small tractors in a very long time. So, but yeah, that's kind of it. So you can see somebody's added, this is the hood release here. somebody's added this. It's supposed to be a steel handle, but obviously that came off or something happened to it along the way. So, but like I said, they're very basic. You can see there's the oil fill there, antifreeze. I mean, there's nothing to them really. So pretty basic machines, super easy to keep maintained. Honestly, all these parts to change the oil and filters and all this stuff are very, very affordable. Another thing people don't realize what this is too, I forgot, that is the diff lock. So if you're spinning in mud or something, the back tires, when you push that down, it will lock up the rear end. So that gives you like a diff lock in the rear. It's unlocked most of the time, so if you're mowing or whatever, it doesn't tear up the grass. And yeah, said this one, they've added a canopy to it. Somebody made their own homemade canopy. It's typical for these lights to be broken off. I used to keep them around when I was kind of selling these once in a while or whatever, but haven't really had any because I haven't done one of these in forever. So you can see again the seat 2 just from Southern Machine or whatever. It's sitting outside. It's just common that they get that way. So sometimes they'll change the seats, sometimes not. But like I said, that kind of gives you a pretty good idea of what it is. It's not like a super complicated machine. The backhoes are super easy to operate. Like I said, I do have that's something to think about. Most of these machines don't have the lower links, so you'd have to go buy those from wherever. I've heard that the Tractor Supply and things like that ones work there. I've never tried it, so I can't 100% say that for sure, but I have heard that, so that's something to think about as well. So these backhoes are frame mounted. If you just put a 3-point hitch one and it gets bouncing around back there, that's not a good solution for these smaller tractors. It'll actually break the frame in half on some of them. I've seen it myself where it's actually like cracked the frame, broke the frame. So it has to be a frame mounted one. You can see where all that goes up there. It's basically, because otherwise all that weight's just hanging off the back of the 3-point hitch, and it's basically just hanging off the transmission back there. So that's no good. So it has to be a frame mounted one, especially if it's going to be a bigger one like this. Like this is even though this is like not a huge tractor, this is a pretty small backhoe for this. Pretty big backhoe for this, like weight wise and things like that. And also if you look at it, it's not super tight up against the machine. So that's kind of, again, something to think about there. So it's hanging quite a bit off, and that's quite a bit of weight there. So I'm going to get this thing serviced and get it loaded up here. Okay, so I just loosened off the hydrostatic filter there, and you can see it looks kind of murky. It's probably got a little bit of moisture in there, and that could just happen from condensation and things like that. And then again, how I said, people don't tend to service these, so all it takes is just a little bit of moisture mixed in there with that, and it starts aerating. So it probably looks worse than it actually is, but that just gives you guys something to think about there. So I'm going to crack this all the way, but I just wanted to show you that. Okay, so just so you guys know, that is the drain plug. It is a 17 millimeter. That'll save you a little time there. So I'm going to pull that out and we'll drain some more now. So you can see there, it's pretty milky. So what happened was when I went to pick this thing up, it was like a little bit low on fluid. So the guy decided he was going to add fluid to it, but I think the pail maybe had gotten left open or something, or maybe it just didn't totally seal it. He started pouring in. He only poured just a little bit in. And I said, I think it's got water in it. So we stopped, but that's probably some of what this is too. So no big deal. It's not gonna hurt anything. It didn't really drive it or use it or whatever. So just gonna drain it all out here. Start with some fresh oil. That way we know we're good. So it's supposed to hold, I believe, around 3 or 3.5 gallons here. So we'll just start filling it until it's the top of the sight window. Then we'll run it. And once we run it, we'll check the sight window again. It'll probably go down a little bit because it's going to lose some in the filter and things like that. But yeah, this is kind of an extreme case. Probably some of the worst that I've seen here. But again, it looks worse than it is because it's aerated, right? Like I said, it only takes, if you put a couple teaspoons of water in that oil, it'll just look exactly like this because it gets aerated so bad. So no big deal. We'll get her drained out and put some fresh stuff in it, and we should be good to go. Okay, while I'm waiting for that to drain, I want to just let it drain really good. So I'm going to drop the oil. I have a second pan here. Same size drain there. It's a 17 millimeter. And then, of course, right above it, oil filter. For the oil filter, let me see if I have it here. I did have it 2 seconds ago. So I use a cup wrench. There's all sorts of different sizes that fit just perfect, but that's the one that's like, it's a really small filter, so it's kind of a tight space to get into. So that's what we've always used. So I'm gonna drain that now, and then we'll get everything topped back off here again, fire it up, and should be good. Okay, I just wanted to show you guys what happened here. This thing, so this will happen for a couple of reasons. Number one, this machine had been sitting around for like, I think 8 months without even running, so that doesn't help, or else just lack of maintenance. So you could see I just twisted the heck out of this thing. I have a bunch of tools. I put the cup wrench on it. It just basically bent the filter, started wrecking it. I went to this one, which did not turn it either. And then this one finally turned it. Now, normally I have a rubber wrench there that I can get on it. It's like a rubber strap wrench that's adjustable, and that'll typically get most filters off, but there's no room to get at it on this one. It's so small in there, so had to resort to that. That was a lot of work. It was super hard to get it off. So you basically use a 3/4 inch ratchet for that, and yeah, you just tighten it up and it cinches against the filter. So you can see here, this is a M806418 filter. That's the engine oil, and I'll show you. And again, they're a little bit different. There's a couple different filter numbers. I can't remember exactly what machines have what. I think it varies by year, but this one's a hydraulic filter, the hydrostatic filter. It's LVA 12812. So again, I know there's a couple different numbers that got changed through the years there. I just don't remember exactly what they were, so you'll have to check into that yourself. Okay, so what I did here, I let the downriggers out. Obviously the bucket's all the way down. You want as much oil back to there as you can so you can get the bulk of it. What I should have done was stretch this fully out, because you want those cylinders in all the way. So if I would have stretched this one out, that would have actually pushed some more oil back. But I got the bulk of it anyways. You're not gonna get it all perfect there or whatever, but that's gonna be the majority of it anyways. So I guess I just put the oil filter on. Like, I used the cup wrench again. Just make sure that you guys put a little bit of oil, clean oil, on the filter O-ring there. Otherwise you're gonna have issues. Another thing, I mean, you can use whatever engine oil you want. I'm probably just gonna put Rotella in it this time. I kind of use that for a lot of things. That's actually one thing I've never really used is John Deere oil. Just because of the cost, really. I did when I was doing fleet stuff, but for just personal stuff, I've used that. But I do always use the John Deere hydrostatic oil and things like that, because they're pretty touchy for that kind of stuff. So that we're gonna put the other filter back on for the hydraulics there, and yeah, we should be able to start filling. Okay, working my way through this thing, just topping up the engine oil. I'm still letting the hydrostatic oil drain. It's pretty super slow draining or whatever, of course. So I think these things hold 3.2 quarts with the small filter. I think when they changed up to the bigger filters, they hold a little bit more, maybe 3.5 or 3.6. So I put 3.2 in it. That should be about right there. I'm gonna just get this closed back up here, put the hydrostatic filter on, and then that should be about it. Before, once I make sure everything's drained good out of the hydraulics there, I'll top that back off and we should be able to fire it up. Okay, so I decided I'm going to change the filter. It was pretty dirty and I had a spare one here. So this is the one that came out of it. It was a PB21575. I don't think that's the factory filter. Maybe it is, you know. Actually looks like it is a factory one, so Donaldson is usually that. So but anyways, that's what came out of there. I had one spare. I had ordered a bunch from eBay a long time ago because these things are super expensive from John Deere. That was the number, but I don't think they even offer them anymore. So you guys can check on eBay. They might have some. I ordered, I think, like 10 or 20 at one time. I don't even remember, but so anyways, yeah, this is the last of those from years ago. Okay, that was super easy. Literally just take this off. These machines, if you had one of these like older kind of original machines, there was actually, I think it was a recall at one time, or at least there was some sort of fix under warranty where this was mounted to the head and it would vibrate and it would basically break the bolts off of it or whatever. So there was like a remount kit, and this one doesn't have it yet. So obviously hasn't been a problem, but that is something to think about. But anyways, that's your air filter housing. There's an inner filter on that too. Usually that doesn't get bad unless you've really not taken care of it. So just charging up the battery here a little bit. This thing's been sitting around. I have a feeling I'm gonna have to buy a battery for it yet, but yeah, I'm gonna throw a seat cover on it, top up the hydraulic fluid here. All right, guys, I didn't show it there, but the very last thing we did last night was we ended up having to put a new battery in it. The one that was in there was pretty much junk, so we threw a new battery in it. So this thing had, like I said, fresh air filter, hydrostatic fluid, oil change, and yeah, I mean, pretty much it other than greasing it, you know? So not too bad, but that gives you a pretty basic idea of what you're looking at to service these things. They're pretty straightforward machines. So if you guys got any questions, hit me up in the comments. Make sure you like, subscribe, share me around on social media. It is Cruising with Kevin on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and on Facebook. I am TK's Garage 405 for now because they still have not changed my name.